Welcome to Mpowered Living. I'm Sheu. On this podcast, innovative leaders and visionary experts share insights and practical tools for work, family, and marriage. Each episode, we'll explore how to elevate your life while staying grounded in what truly matters to you. You're working hard to navigate relationships, build a thriving family, and create a legacy of purpose. We're here to help you do that with confidence and intentionality. So if you're ready to live a life by design, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Mpowered Living. I'm your host, Sheu, and today my guest is Shannon Waller. She's a speaker, an author, a podcast host, and a longtime coach at Strategic Coach, and she has spent her life helping entrepreneurs and their teams reach new levels of growth, success, and freedom. She has had a front row seat to some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs. And in this episode, we talk about the important mindset shifts entrepreneurs need to make if they want to build businesses that actually last. We explore the foundational steps to become a great leader, and we talk about the one thing that can drastically improve the way a team operates and communicates. And we also explore the relationship between excitement, fear, and control, and how to use those feelings to actually help you achieve your goals. This is an incredible conversation, and I am so excited to share it with you today. Let's dive in. Shannon, it is such a joy to have you here today. I cannot wait for this conversation.
I'm so excited to be here, Anne. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so let's just dive in because I have so much I want to go over with you. In your many decades of working with entrepreneurs at Strategic Coach, you've observed how they have built businesses, built their lives. What is the pattern that really stands out the most to you that you have seen when leaders are building businesses that truly thrive and they're living lives that they're really excited about?
That is such a rich question. There's about 18 million answers, but I would say there are a few common themes or elements. The ones that it's interesting, like which ones are sustainable? Who builds it for the long term? That's a different question than who's just successful because they're market forces that sometimes in your favor. So I think the ones that I see that, and we've actually been talking about this at Coach lately, is entrepreneurial longevity. Like, what are the factors that lead to entrepreneurial longevity, which is such a fun conversation. So if you've decided that this is a life sentence that you're happy with, how do you do it and how do you do it well? So number one, I would say, is they get very aware of their unique ability. So unique ability in coach terms is what you love to do and are best at. Something you love to do and you're not very good at is something called a hobby. We're not talking about hobbies here, right? So you love to do it. You have superior skill and passion. You love it. And you can do it for a long time and it gives you a lot of energy. A lot of things deplete us or kind of wear us out or just even wear us down a smidge. But when it's your unique ability, it actually lights you up. And that is huge. Then do what you love and never work a day in your life.
Right.
A little idealistic. First of all, it has to better create value or no one's paying you. Can't do that for very long. But if you are doing that, it's kind of amazing. But there's a corollary to that. If you want to do what you love and do best, then you must be surrounded by people who also do everything else. And I know my standard, and I think yours too, Anne, is I want to be surrounded by people who are brilliant and love to do all the things I don't.
Yes.
Or things I'm bad at, which is, by the way, quite the long list.
Yeah.
So it's not about ego. Unique ability and ego are actually kind of opposites, which is interesting. I like to see people very confident in those few activities at which they are unique, right? Love to do and are best at, and very humble about everything else. And the ability to actually work with other people who are complementary in talents, strengths, capabilities is really the secret sauce. Another element would be that they have a way of paying attention to the marketplace. They don't create something 5-10 years ago and think it's going to be static. I mean, this summer will be 35 years with Strategic Coach.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Who does that anymore? Nobody. And the world is just amping up. Like, it's just going faster and faster. So the idea that you could even be static is a bit laughable at this point. But still, I see people that think that this thing they created whatever years ago is still always going to stay the same. So really staying current with what we call the DOS, the future goals, the dangers, opportunities, and strengths of your clientele. And dangers are what they're worried about. Opportunities are what they're excited about, and strengths are what they're confident about. And most people don't make it through the whole conversation to figure out what their audience, their prospect is confident about. So really knowing you don't know sometimes and staying curious, which by the way is my word for the year. You've made a little friendship bracelet around, it's got the word curious here. Staying curious, knowing what you know, knowing what you don't know, I think is another way that people stay successful. Yeah. So just to start with, those are the two main things. Three: unique ability, teamwork, and being very present and paying attention to your marketplace and figuring out how you, with your unique ability, can create value for your audience. If you can, we call that the fundamental relationship. If you can stay in that, I think I'm not going to say golden, but you are going to be far more successful than most people over the long term.
So how do you advise entrepreneurs shift from founder doing it all, having this mindset of I am the only one that can do it all, that I can do it best, shifting from that and really letting go and trusting that there are other people that can do it better? What's the advice on that shift? Because I feel like that is one of the hardest transitions for entrepreneurs to make.
It definitely is. If I'm being snarky, I will say, get over yourself, which I've had to tell myself more than once, just saying. It's like, really? What a great question. I think there's actually two different things. One is, do you think you're really the best person to do everything? If you have any self-awareness at all, which is I don't have very many rules in life, but know thyself is one of them. And so self-awareness is one of the traits that I respect most. That and always be growing. Those are the two things. If you're doing those, we can be friends. If not, not too much. So that self-awareness, you're like, oh my gosh, there's things I love to do. And there's things I'm really great at. And there's some things I feel like I have to do. Now, so if you have that self-awareness, you at least have some openness to the fact that you're not good at certain things. The trust factor that you said, that is the tough part because, and my joke that I use way too often is sometimes you have to kiss a lot of frogs. Yes. And if you've had some bad experiences or if you're not naturally a good communicator with handoffs, which most people are not, it's a learned skill, but there has to be some willingness. And but if you're self-aware, I think you can become team aware. And so I have a new model for leadership. It's self-awareness, team awareness, and business awareness. So as I'm helping entrepreneurial leaders grow, they need to actually have capabilities in all those three areas. And so I think, though, if you're self-aware, like if I know, we were talking about our Kolbe profiles before we hit record, and we're opposites. So if I'm self-aware, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a partner like Anne, because she's going to fill in a cajillion gaps that I will never fill in. If I even see them, which I may not, I will not fill them in, but I need that in order to create the best possible result. So there's just a humility that goes with that.
You need your quick start energy, right?
Yeah, but there's one person, and he said this about Kolbe, but it actually applies to almost every profile. And I love psychometric profiles, as you're aware, because I just think they're this amazing shortcut in language to knowing your strengths. Yep. He said, before I knew about Kolbe, I thought everyone was just like me, only not as good. I'm like, dude, okay, so that attitude will not get you. Can you believe it? Yeah, I know. I cracked up. It still makes me laugh. And literally that was years ago. So there's that willingness to, and again, it comes from fear, it comes from ego. I can psychoanalyze it till the cows come home. But you have to be willing to test, to experiment, to learn. And strategic is my number 2 Clifton strength. It's like, I love stocking my quiver with strategies to maximize teamwork. That's my deal. I really want to support the teamwork. Teamwork is my jam. And so anything I can find that works, I've done dozens and dozens, probably into the 30s for the number of profiles I've done. I have 4 top ones, right? Yeah. So I curate a lot and I test stuff out and I see how it works. And I see how the longevity is. And then I discern it down to help make it better. So which is why I love having these conversations, because someone else who cares about the same thing. But it means being savvy and being willing to test and knowing that you're not the be all and end all. You are the be all and end all in one narrow little range. The world's a big place, and there's a lot of very capable people who would love nothing more than to contribute their strength, their talents, their intelligence to what you are up to your purpose. And the more you can make that a compelling offer for people, you can attract all the talent that you need. So a lot of it is willingness being open-minded, being curious, not being it all about you.
Yeah.
Right? And once you get your first good hire where you're leveraged, all of a sudden the world changes. All of a sudden you're like, oh, the possibilities just open up. Can I tell a super quick story?
Yes, please.
So many, many moons ago. So when I first started working at Strategic Coach, the salesperson who hired me, we were each on our own, but we shared a part-time sales assistant. So I had a quarter of a person, not even a full part-time person. Anyway, Susan wanted to hire somebody else. She said, could you take over this person? Her name was Anon Kim. Shout out to Anon. She goes, could you take her over by yourself? And I was like scared. And I look back at those invoices now that I paid, and it was peanuts. It was pennies. And I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can do it. Do I have enough work? All the questions. And then I finally bit the bullet, and it took me like a week and a half. And then, and Anon started just supporting me. 2 weeks later, I'm like, how soon can you go full time?
Wow.
I was like, this was amazing. I had work. She filled in all my gaps I didn't even know I had. I'm like, so that to me, that changed my nervous system. Now I was willing to go, okay, this makes sense. This teamwork thing is the way to go. So I have my own experience, but I think you only need that. It's like, I don't want to say it's a drug. It's like candy. It's like, ooh, this is a whole new possibility opens up when you get this to be supported by a capable, committed person with great talents.
Okay, so you mentioned the self-awareness piece. I want to talk a little bit about that because it's so important to my work and what we're doing at Empowered Journey. We actually have a workshop called Know Thyself. It's one of our main workshops, helping individuals get clear about who they are, what they really want out of life, living from their values.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about leaders who have really done their self-awareness work, what are some of the common themes, the common things that they have done to really make sure that they are continuously growing and deepening their self-awareness? Because for me, what I find is I will do some self-awareness work, and then I'll be like, oh, I know all these things. And then I almost find myself like coasting or plateauing and thinking that I know what I need to know. Right. And so how do we make sure that we keep getting that kick in the butt without having to call on some, big dramatic, traumatic life event that spurs that learning?
I know. I mean, having to learn because of a trauma, that is the least favorite way to do anything.
And I have a lot of those. Learn the hard way.
I know. And sometimes I need it. It's like clearly I needed a 2x4 to the head because that's what I got. You're like, seriously?
Yeah.
Right. And usually it's something I probably could have learned earlier if I'd paid more attention, but
Same.
we're all instructed differently, I've decided. I think there's a couple things. One is I actually think that plateaus are not necessarily bad. So I think when you have this all of a sudden increased self-awareness, you have to recalibrate your nervous system a little bit. You have to operate at that new level of capability, let's call it. It has to settle in a little bit. You have to get used to operating at this new level. But then there's a point, first of all, you start boring yourself. Excellent clue. I did that once. I was like, and it was when I was raising my kids when they were younger. And at some point, I'm like, oh my God, I am bored with myself. I couldn't even blame my clients or anything else. I'm like, so what I do, I went and got certified in another profile. Then I had a new capability, and then I had more to share with my clients because my world is not dissimilar.
I feel like we're the same person.
No, right? I love it. This is why this is such a joy. So for me, it's like, pay attention to the early signals is probably what I would say. So if you're starting to get bored with yourself, with other people, the other thing that does cause people to learn is all of a sudden you're kind of all fine and good. And then you hit a situation. Like one of the things I'm studying, like for me, well, example, a couple of years ago, I'm like, okay, I'm doing a lot of speaking. I'm excellent in our distinction, but I'm not unique. In other words, I was good at it. I could even get paid for it, but I did not love it. I'm like, I want to enjoy this more, which is kind of like most people, if they don't love it, they just stop doing it. I didn't want to stop doing it. There were opportunities and could be kind of fun, but it was like, it feels scary. So I wanted to be less scary. So then I went and hired, shout out to my good friend and speaking coach, Deirdre Van Nest, Crazy Good Talks, who happens to be Strategic Coach's newest program coach. She's amazing. And then she taught me how I could speak by being myself.
Wow.
So it's more authentic. So that was pretty cool. So when something is challenging, Another one I'm working on now, coaching myself and other people, is how to have those difficult conversations. And that takes an incredible amount of self-awareness and willingness. There's a great video. It's with Trevor Noah and Simon Sinek about the difference between being nice and being kind, right? Like I love studying communication. Jefferson Fisher has a great new book called The Next Conversation. Chris Voss, You Never Split the Difference, all these great things that I use all the time. But knowing how to get out of sticky situations where you would normally be triggered, where you would normally not show up in best self, you might show up in shadow self, to use a reference to print profile. Like there'll be a situation where you're like, oh, I'm no longer quite who I thought I was, or I didn't know I was going to do that, or I don't want to be showing up that way. So again, there'll be something you'll trip over, to my mind. That's when I'm like, oh, I guess I need to not avoid it, which I would do if it was an effective strategy, but unfortunately it's not. I'm like, I guess I better lean in and figure this out.
Yeah.
So I think like that commitment to growth, paying attention to when you're bored with yourself or others, and then paying attention to those little stumbles that we have in life or where we don't feel capable, and then adding in capability. I mean, there's so much opportunity for learning in our world. It's amazing. YouTube videos, everything, right? So I think those are the things to me. But if you don't have a value of always be growing, those things will be passing by you in the current and you won't grab them. So if you have a mindset of you always want to be growing, I think it's a lot easier. But I do think those plateaus are not bad. Do things recalibrate for you when you let things settle for a little bit?
They do. And, even when I'm in the plateau, I don't feel like I necessarily notice it, but it's reflecting. I'm like, oh, I was kind of coasting. Like I kind of my ego got in the way a little bit, right? Like I learned and then I was like, oh.
Now I know everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then,
but the world is like allergic to that. I've decided the universe, whatever that is like, no.
Yeah.
Throw something in your face and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. I get a lot of those.
Yeah. Exactly. So don't worry. The world will take care of you in that regard.
Okay. So I want to go back to what you mentioned about the fear with the speaking before you hired the coach, because I know that you and Dan Sullivan have talked about this fascinating dynamic between excitement and fear and how they are inseparable when leaders are pursuing big goals. So what are your thoughts? How would you frame fear differently? Like, how do you think that leaders should really start thinking about fear differently?
Make friends with it. It's probably what I would say. There's a certain amount of fear that keeps you alive. There's actually a book called The Gift of Fear. Really interesting. Babs is actually the one who turned me on to it because it keeps you alert, keeps you alive, has you make decisions where you like this lovely part of our brain. The back part is actually
being chased by a lion, right?
Beg your pardon?
When you're being chased by a lion.
Exactly. You better hustle. Just saying. So that's not a bad thing. I think the thing is not to be afraid of fear, right? Like you use it. It is energy. In the same way, when something goes wrong and you get this smack, you have this intense negative energy. You can either use it for productive purposes or what we like to call creative purposes or reactive. Same letters as creative, just rearranged, which I love every second of, right? I know. So fear is like, oh, I guess I need to pay attention now. Now, if it's life threatening, don't do it.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to kill you or your company or your team. Stop.
Yeah.
But there's a certain amount of being okay with uncertainty and figuring out what you need to figure out and take action. It was interesting. I just put together a module on decision making. So I was studying some decision making models. Jeff Bezos has a good one, type 1 or type 2 decisions. Like if it's hard to change, take your time and talk to lots of people. If it's relatively easy to change, take action, which I like. Don't deliberate everything to death. The other one is from Colin Powell, which is 40-70. If you know less than 40% of the information, probably not a good idea to take action. But 70% be willing to take action and figure it out from there. More than 70, you're falling into analysis paralysis. But we know for people with a really initiating fact finder or people who need things to be perfect, correct, and right, that's painful.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I don't know enough yet. I'm working with a bunch of engineers and it's like, oh, it is tough for them sometimes, let me tell you, because they don't want to be wrong. And I'm really happy that they make sure the buildings are
Yeah.
at 90 degrees and floors are level. I appreciate that about them. But at the same time, you can hold back too much. So the whole thing about the other thing about fear and excitement, because I actually think we kind of all boil down to being our nervous systems, is your body interprets it the same. Like they'll measure your responses, and fear and excitement have almost the same chemistry going on. And so one time it's going to sound really crazy. I was assisting on a ropes course and it was rappelling. And the coaching was, okay, are your knees knocking? And the answer, everyone was like, going down backwards, not a normal human thing to do. And especially down a steep cliff where you could fall. And they were like, okay, make sure that you're the one knocking your knees. And I was like, oh yeah, I could actually be in charge of that. Or you've got butterflies in your tummy? Good, make them fly in formation.
Wow.
Right. So it's interesting when you can start to relate to it. It's like, okay, I'm afraid and I'm
Yeah.
going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. We have a model called the 4 C's, which is very essential for growth. I think it's part of everyone's growth. We all want to feel capable and confident, but those are the last 2 C's. First of all, we make a commitment, and entrepreneurs do this all the time. Parents do this all the time. They're like, sure, I'll do that. And then you're like, what have I just done? What have I just committed to? And then you have that wonderful, terrible feeling in your stomach. And I love how Dan Sullivan called it courage. Courage is an aspiration, like it's a good word. Being courageous is a good thing, right? In our society, which I appreciate. So you make a commitment, have to be willing to go through the courage phase to develop that new capability that will then give you the confidence. And then because we're us, we do it all over again. So that willingness to be friends, make friends with fear, you can still be afraid, but you be in charge of it. But not letting it stop you is interesting. And if you flip it, it actually feels a lot like excitement. Again, that takes some practice and some wherewithal and a willingness to not be comfortable, right? Willingness to change the status quo. But at least in some of my coaching with entrepreneurs, because we talk a lot about fear, uncertainty, and discomfort as you go to a next level of normal. And some clients said to me, they're like, if I'm not a little bit uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable. Them feeling like they're resting on their laurels freaks them out, right? They're like, if I'm not a little bit scared all the time, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So again, people's nervous systems are cued differently, at least in my world, entrepreneurs are more towards that. So I'm not sure what you think of that, but it's an interesting dynamic and I get to see people do courageous things a lot.
What would you say about the fear and the relationship with tightening control? Like for me, I find that when I am afraid, I start gripping harder and I start taking back control. How do we lean into that fear to help fuel the energy towards a healthy, productive decision and not removing the freedoms, removing the control that the team has had,
Mhm.
taking some of that back?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It is such a human response to go. And again, if you think about it, your kid's running into traffic, you're going to grab them
Right,
and
right,
control their
yes,
behavior. That's a good
right.
thing. It's not bad. But most of the time, that's not what's happening. No one's going to fall off a cliff. No one's going to run in traffic. So it's so hard to do. You almost have to go against some of your base instincts. But again, you're not being chased by a tiger or a lion, or it's not the world we live in. It's actually take a deep breath. Recognize that there's some fear trigger there. Calm down your lovely amygdala that's putting you into fight, flight, or freeze, or control. And by the way, I know you do a lot with parents. It's like this happens with kids. My kids will tell you, I'm not so controlling at work. At home, I used to be. My kids are mostly grown now, but that's when my control would come out. But if you'd ask me if I thought I was a controlling person, I would say no. And my kids would be like, Mom, come on. Right? So it's pretty funny. I think of it personally and professionally, we could be different humans. But the one strategy I've found for myself when I can do it, and hopefully your partner can help you with this too, is to take a step back, take a deep breath. And Dan has a great distinction. He said, I'm not in control, but I am in charge.
Mm,
And he coaches our clients to be in charge, not in control. Right? Because when you're in charge, and he actually uses the electricity model. He's like, you're the one charging up the team. with
Mm,
energy, with vision, with confidence, right? With morale, momentum, motivation, all of those things. It's like they don't need you to control. They need you to be in charge, provide direction. Definition of that. It doesn't actually help when you get all micromanaging on it. In fact, it prevents their unique abilities from coming into play. So again, if we really get anchored in who we are as a leader, then I think we're going to make better decisions in those. And you can say, by the way, this is freaking me out, and say, hey, someone reassure me that this is not going to cause a disaster. You can say that to your team,
mm.
right? You could out, and they're like, oh, didn't see that. Maybe this is a bad idea. Or they're like, actually, we've done this, and that. You're like, oh, phew, right? So before you get into that reaction, ask a question. No, you don't know. Get curious. Those are the ways that I've talked myself off the ledge. Mostly it works, occasionally not so much. But the more you can do it rather than not, the better.
So, in your book, Team Success, you talk about creating environments where everyone's really thriving. Why do you think teamwork is such a difficult concept for so many entrepreneurs? Even when they know it's important, like, why is it so hard?
It's because it's theoretical. Well, the term we have at Strategic Coach is because we're rugged individuals. Right? We're often very independent creatures. Often we have been since we were young. We may be natural leaders where we're always kind of out front, like forging a new path. And so we're just a little bit wired, not everybody, but a little wired to just kind of be out there by ourselves. And then occasionally we're like, oh, other people want to come too? How does that work? Right. And so there's, and I'm a rugged individual, and I'm in my motivation is an 8 print, right? So it's like independent is kind of
Yeah.
my I don't even have a middle name. It could be my middle name, which is kind of fun. So it took a lot for me to figure it out. And I had to be with the like-minded people. I had to be with smart people. I had to be with motivated people. I had to find, I know this term isn't in use much anymore. I had to find my people, my tribe.
Mhm.
And then it was like, oh, okay, I want to hang out with you. You get me, I get you. And that started to work. Again, a lot of times, I think the calculation Dan figured out was it's like 5% of the population, no matter what the population is, could have been 50 years ago or today, only 5% are entrepreneurs. And only 5% of those are not like just self employed. So there aren't that many people out there like that. And so just appreciating, so rugged individualism, but you hit what we call a ceiling of complexity. So you'll have made a ton of progress, been unique and different from other people. But then if you keep doing everything yourself, you hit a ceiling of complexity and then you experience a lot of diminishing returns. You can't do it all. There's only 24 hours in a day and you need to sleep and eat, right? And then you realize, oh, I'm exhausted, getting super grumpy, probably not the parent, friend, son, daughter that you want to be, aunt, uncle, sister, brother, you name it. And so then you realize, oh, I'm in a crisis mode. I need to find some other people who can help. So often it does require that kind of trauma that you were talking about. There's often a crisis. And then they're like, I can't keep doing this. I need to make a shift. And unique ability teamwork is so much more fun. It's so much more liberating. And there's so much more freedom because other people love to do the stuff you don't. And once you find those right who's, you're like, I can't go back. It's too much. I was talking to an old client today. He goes, oh yeah, I was completely freed up to do my unique ability. Now, the person supporting him had a life change and that kind of fell apart. So
Mm,
we had to rebuild, right?
yeah.
Like pay attention. But there are people out there who love doing what they're best at in support of what you're up to. And once you realize that, you just have this antenna out for good people. So there is a shift possible, but sometimes you have to hit that crisis period first.
Yeah. I mean, what's really fun is like being a strategic coach member has been life changing for me personally.
Good.
But one of the most fascinating things is anytime I interact with somebody who's on the strategic coach team, it's like watching magic happen because everybody's living in their unique ability. And so it's fascinating just watching them work and do what
Yeah.
they're great at and just watching the team do what they are supposed to be doing and thriving at it.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it really is.
You're like, I didn't think work could be like this is
Yeah.
often what people say. And it's fascinating to me because people are like, where do you find such great people? And like, well, we do find really good people, but we have an environment where people can be great, right? Like and we've got core values and we've got all of those things that let people know how to behave when I hate the word boss, when the leaders aren't around, right? That's what good values do, is they let people, like we have a thing, excellent first class experience. So no matter what, have brilliant hospitality. Someone comes in late, you're not like, that's your problem. You're late for your workshop. Like we would never do that. We're like, oh my gosh, we are so happy you're here. Can I take your coat? You probably had a rough morning. Can I get you a coffee? And we escort them in. And we like to have great food and great decor. We just want to make it an incredible. Dan's a huge fan of great hotels, so we want to make it a great, hospitable, not formal, elegantly casual environment where you can just settle. So I love that because our team gets to show up that way and bring their selves and with their love and care to create that experience for folks. And they're rewarded and supported and helped. We encourage them to do their unique ability. Obviously, it has to fit with what we do for a living. Let's be clear. Not everyone's a fit for that. But then people get to show up as their best self all the time. That's an environment where people are attracted to and they don't want to leave. Like we have longevity in our team, which is highly unusual. So yeah, but it means creating the environment where people can be great. And you have to be a great person to work for. It doesn't just happen, right? So it's not that we find really great, good people and we help them be great is how I would say it.
Okay, so what you just said, a great person to work for. Talk about the leadership behaviors that might look and feel good on the surface, but they're actually undermining trust and teamwork over time.
What a good question. My goodness.
What are people doing wrong that they think is actually helping? What's actually harming?
Right.
I know
One
you
of
have
them I'm actually
stories.
somewhat
You
guilty
probably-
of.
Yeah.
Great question. I think doing things for appearances, I almost want to say not being authentic. So if there's a core value that is not your core value, then that's probably not the company for you. You need to go lead somewhere else, right? Or if you're not showing up in your best self. And again, those aren't necessarily things that look good, but people can, put lipstick on a pig for a long time. So I think when who you are, if it's not aligned with what you're up to, if things just don't interest you as much anymore, or your interests have changed, your life has changed, unfortunately, people don't fire themselves. It's a really true expression. Hopefully, we all have accountability partners in our own companies where they're like, hey, if I was not acting according to the way that I think we need, I'm pointing at our core values page that over there, then I want someone to call me on it. Right? I would want someone and settling back, not speaking up for people, not kind of putting yourself out there, not growing, not being self-aware, not being team aware, not being business aware. Those are things that leaders sometimes get away with that really causes harm. It is not good. It's interesting. Most things, the team knows it sometimes before the leaders know it. So if you've got core values and you are not upholding them, so you might keep someone on board for too long and you finally make the decision, the team is like, what took you so long?
Yeah.
That's one. And again, this is the difference between being nice and being kind. This is the Trevor Noah, Simon Sinek. I just watched it before I saw you. I watched it again. And it's like, we can think we're being nice, but we're not having those direct conversations. It's probably the best answer. We're not having those direct conversations. We're not holding ourselves accountable. We're not holding other people accountable. We're letting people get away with murder, quote unquote. Not really, but close. And yeah, there's a lot of things. It's interesting. I wrote a book, Multiplication by Subtraction, for how to gracefully let go of wrong fit team members. And some of them, the two hardest ones, maybe three hardest ones, are leaders with the wrong value system. So they're there for their reasons, not yours. Leaders who are very capable, but toxic for your culture, like your top salesperson.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they're horrible with everyone on the team. That's difficulty. And the last one, and this is out of 5 out of 5, it's a 6 out of 5, legacy team members.
Mm,
And in family businesses, sometimes this is family members.
yeah.
And we keep them along because we just don't know how to let go. And that's so hard. Personal experience. So we think we're being nice and actually we're kind of wrecking our companies when that happens.
I know you pointed over to that core values poster. Can you share what the values are and how they show up in the company and how you're using them to hire and fire and
Yep.
reward and recruit?
Yes. So number one is, well, the acronym is PAGE. Makes it really easy to remember. Thank goodness. So the first one is positive and collaborative teamwork, which means, we start every meeting with a positive focus, want interactions to be pleasant. One of the motivations for a lot of us is to enjoy life and be happy. So we want people to bring their best selves, happy selves to work. Collaborative, which means you listen to and appreciate someone else's contribution, even though it's different than yours, not thinking that your way is always the best way. So that's what that means. Being alert, curious, responsive, and resourceful. So that's the A. So alert is not going to sleep, right? Curious, like alert, curious. So wanting to know, oh, why did that person say that? Why did that happen? Why did the client do this instead of that? Right? Responsive, how can I help? And then resourceful, that's my favorite one. Probably because I helped add to the model when Dan was coming up with it. But resourceful is the number one characteristic of an A player, according to Dr. Brad Smart. And I've always remembered that line. It doesn't matter. You can have an A player at any level of the organization, most entry level to senior, most senior to founder. So it's the most capable person at that pay grade. So you can have A level, A receptionist, an A founder or not.
Mhm.
Um, but that means being alert, curious, responsive, resourceful, right? That's the kind of thing we want. Then G is focused on growth and results, right? Like always be growing, as Babs coined that years ago. And so we're looking at growth. We're looking at results that are both, increasing the number of people in the program, increasing the, amount of money and revenue and profit that we're making, all of those things. So it's not just for fun, right?
Yeah.
We have a purpose for that. And then finally, the last one is providing an excellent first class experience. And that's really that hospitality model. So we use it, we celebrate it. We have something called Page Awards that we nominate people every month. And then there's a draw for who wins it. And the person who nominates the most people also gets called out and acknowledged. And we like gift certificates. We're fans of those. It's kind of funny. There's not a lot I won't do for dark chocolate or Amazon gift certificates. He said they're a motivator for me. Go figure. It's entertaining. Not that I need those things, but I want them. So we like to do that usually once a year when someone has helped us bubble up to like a 10x kind of deal. We'll have what we call a bubble award that comes from a bubbling pot metaphor that Dan described one day. So we'd like to reward that behavior that way. We lay it out to people when we're hiring them. This is our core value system that we expect you to uphold. And then we revisit them. We're actually in the process of updating our core values right now. So that's what they are now. I'll let you know if they change. But we just kind of have them be part of our culture and call it out when we see it. And every month, like we don't skip it. We don't take it for granted. And I think that's a key aspect.
Okay, so my high fact finder wants to know exactly how you do these core values awards every month because I want to implement something similar. So what does it look like? Are you submitting a written submission and then it's just drawn out of a bowl, or are you guys picking the best ones? How does that
So
work?
we have a Google chat. So we're on G Suite. So we have a Google chat and there's like a little Page Awards. Okay. A nomination. So you nominate. So you do it and you put the little @ symbol so that person gets called out, or sometimes there's more than one person involved. And especially if they pull off something that was challenging or went above and beyond to take care of a client, they helped a team member a lot, all sorts of extraordinary behavior. We expect excellence, but at the same time, we like to call it out and reward it. So everyone nominates. Now, I don't do it. I mean, I expect a lot from our team, but when something extraordinary happens, I want to be to call it out. And then what happens is, so that our team we don't really have an HR team because we're all on HR.
Yeah.
If you think about it that way, but some of our people who are in charge of that's part of the, people part of the company. So it's a random selection. In terms of, so we don't really grade it. We kind of do a voting thing that got awkward and more like a popularity contest. So we got that. But then the person who also has been the most alert to people doing great things, the person who nominates the most also gets a shout out too. And then I don't know if it's $25 or $50 gift certificate. Is what that person gets. And then we like to do cartoons. So we have a little cartoon thing where you get something that says Page Award. And sometimes people have they post them up in their cubbies and stuff like that. So
I love that.
yeah. So there's a physical, tangible thing. There's, you know, a gift certificate of some kind and you get called out publicly. I think actually the bragging rights are the most important part. So it's public to everybody. Like Dan even gets it occasionally, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That's amazing.
Does that give you enough detail? I'm trying to
Yeah,
think.
I'm going to implement that in the company, but I'm also going to do this with our kids because we have so my last name is Sheu, and we have a little box. We have two boxes. One is called the Good Things Shoe Box, where we just, like gratitude essentially. And then the other one is Shout Out Shoebox, where we shout out each other in the family and when they were living in alignment with our family values or where they achieved something or worked really hard, right? And so now I'm thinking, how do I incentivize? But I like this. Like you get credit for nominating other people because I feel like a lot of times it's me and Sunny nominating putting things in the shout out shoebox. And now I'm going to incentivize the nominations. Love that.
I think I never would have thought of that. Someone else did. And I'm like, oh, what a good idea. Because it means they're being alert to when other people are showing up a particular way, which is awesome. And you know what's really cool? We're a 120 person company over, Canada, US, and UK. I get to find out what people are up to.
Yeah.
Right. And I get to learn the cool stuff that people are doing. And then it's great because there's like emojis are everywhere. You like a little clapping symbol or hands up or a little celebratory, the party hat, like you get to or a little heart symbol. So everyone else gets to weigh in. So you get even these kudos way before the month is up. It's like, oh, wow, that's so awesome. Well done. So it just becomes a conversation, which is what is so cool about it in a public forum like that. But doing it with your kids, oh my gosh, getting them to learn how to pay attention to that's advanced. It's a great idea.
Tell me what you're working on now. What's next for you? What's on the horizon?
Oh my God.
Always got stuff going on. So
I do. There's a couple book projects that I'm very excited about. Some of it is just helping people understand their strengths better. I've got one, actually kind of a personal one I want to do on how to be a good podcast interviewer because I do a lot of interviews and I have a little impact filter. You know what that is? A little formula. So that's just like getting my brain out on paper. That's just a little personal fun project. And then another one that I'm very excited about is the teamwork triad. So it comes out of our model of kind of visionary project manager, process manager, which I nicknamed one day, make it up, make it real, make it recur.
yeah.
And that for most entrepreneurs are the make it up person. They often have a team of make it recur people, focus managers, but what they don't have is someone to help make things real. And it's a gap that's missing. So now that book's been in my laptop for a while now, so it needs to see the light of day. But that one, I went back and looked at the manuscript. I'm like, oh, this actually is not bad. It needs to see some light. I'm working on a leadership development program for an engineering firm. That is a blast and they're amazing. So I'm actually, like I've had a team leader program for 25 years, but they come in as team leaders. This one is actually growing team leaders. So that's interesting. There's a score at the end.
Yeah.
Those careers are partly in my hands. So that's been really fun and challenging and interesting to do. I've got a new leadership mindset scorecard that I'm working on, which has that self-aware, team-aware, business-aware part to it.
Is that going to be
Yes, I do want it to be a book. Yeah. That one I could spend a long time on, but I'm still testing it on my clients right now and developing it. But that one I'm actually speaking about it at EOS conference this year. So that'll be fun too. Yeah. So it's fun testing it on my check writers and then based on how that develops, growing that model too. And then the last thing is I haven't done a lot of writing, been doing more talking or working with AI a little bit, but actually taking my thoughts about how to apply the strategic coach program. So I wrote in 4 articles in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. One is like, why never buffer alone? Because I'm way too squirrel.
Yeah, same.
The difference between focus days and buffer days. So stuff that is very relevant to coach audience. I did one about could, would, and should are all words that keep us in the gap, measuring ourselves against the ideal rather than progress. So that's been really fun to actually be more intentional about writing again and calming myself down enough to do that. 2 of them I wrote in the airport when I was waiting for a delayed flight. So that it's just fun to kind of getting my brain on paper is probably one of the focuses that I have right now. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Amazing. Okay, I want to do a couple rapid fire questions before we wrap up. One habit that makes leaders dramatically more effective.
Ooh, asking questions before they jump to assumptions.
There's your curiosity word of the year.
Yep. It's like, know that you don't know and ask a question, and not in a judgy way, but a genuine question. Oh, help me understand. Tell me more about that. There's a bunch of other ones. Just ask, 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 ask. Do not jump to conclusions.
My fractional integrator is phenomenal at that. She's great at staying curious and really asking the question to understand. Sometimes I'm like, no, just tell them. But she wants to know. And that's why she's great at what she does.
Well, and when you're doing it to really understand the situation, and you probably still do have a correction to put in place, let's be clear. But when you can start to see it from that person's point of view, or your questions can help them go, "Oh, yeah, where was I coming from with that?" Then you're on the same page with someone rather than this. So I think that's like, sometimes I'm like, Bruce, ask me, my husband, ask me a question. Don't just, so it works in all relationships, not just leaders ones. But I think if leaders took a second to ask and be curious and explore it more, you'd have much more collaborative conversations rather than confrontational ones.
What about a mindset entrepreneurs need to let go of?
Being a rugged individual.
Mm.
I can do it better myself. There are very, very, very few things where that's true. Most of it, someone else can do it as least as good as you can, if not better. So yeah, that rugged individual mindset is the thing that I find keeps people small, keeps people limited in terms of their growth. It's where we get in our own way. And when you can make that shift to teamwork, or in my case, what we would call unique ability teamwork, whole different dimension. It's like leaving the gravitational force and going into outer space, in terms of that's how much more freedom there is.
So can you speak directly to your 8 print and how you've overcome that rugged individualism? Because we have a lot of clients, we use print in our Empowered Journey program as well. And so we have a lot of clients that are 8 prints.
Yes.
So what would you say to them?
I would say rugged individual is, I would say, a version of an 8 print in shadow, to use the technical term. And it means that it's a reactionary version. An 8 print in best self is clear, transparent, very authentic. Those are all really good things,
Yeah.
right? So it means that you're not just going, screw the world, I'm going to do it my way. That's a reaction to something. If you can be an 8 print, will create new stuff. They will be strong. They'll be confident. Sometimes they'll deal with tough situations that other people don't want to, in a good way, not a jerky way. So it's not so much about coaching an 8 print to be different. It's more like, stay in best self, dude. That's really what it is. And be super, super aware, because I can feel it now. It just used to be normal, but now I know it's when I'm triggered. Is like when I'm like, screw the world, doing
Yeah.
it that way. Now, sometimes I still want to go do that, by the way, but I try and not cause harm if I do that. I'll just go for a drive. It's like what you need to do. And I think this is all of our work to do, is stay in best self. And actually, one of the coachings in the print profile is how, like, page 8 on the profile is, so 5 is the long form of best self. Page 6 is long form shadow self. Page 7 is the chart, which we use all the time. And page 8 is my favorite page, is the trigger page. Trigger things that drive you crazy. One of mine is long drawn out conversations about things you can't change. I'm like, kill me now, which is kind of funny. And other people thrive on that, not me. But it's like, either get yourself out of that situation or ask questions. That is really some of the coaching in it. So learning how to take a deep breath, pause, ask questions. There's a theme here, so that you can stay in best self 8 rather than shadow self 8. That to me is the coaching. So again, not to not be an 8. Recognize that I'm a doing person. 7, enjoy life and be happy. 8, strong, self-reliant. Right? I love it. I can think a certain thing. I can understand the feelings, but ultimately my question is, what am I going to do? Right? But I can appreciate you too, feeling, right? Right? It's like, oh, this is important. I can take that into account. I can hold space for that. Same with someone who's a thinker. I have a daughter who's a thinker. And so I just can appreciate that other people approach life differently. I need to make room for myself. I'm not squishing myself, but I also can make room for other people. So Yeah, that's kind of it's a great question. That's kind of my take on that. My bottom line, Anne, and I love saying this about all the things, use your powers for good, right? It's like my 7-8 is super useful a lot of the times.
Yeah.
When someone's in trauma, maybe not. Or depends, right? I think about. So it's like sometimes you need someone to just be very like feeling with you, right? Then I'll come in when it's time to do something. Like know how to place yourself. No, it's not all the time. Right. So I think that's that self-awareness piece. When we can use our powers for good, we will be a phenomenal positive force in the universe. And if we're clueless, we will do harm, probably to ourselves and others. So that's kind of my bottom line on that.
Okay, last rapid fire question. What is one question that every leader should be asking themselves regularly?
Ooh, I've got more than one.
Oh, give them all to me then. It's okay.
Okay. So number one, I want people to be focused on how can I support my team? Right. How can I help my team grow? What are they up to? What are they up against? How can I help my team grow? Don't have it be about you. You're a leader, right? And then I would say, how can I help my clients grow? Another great question. And then finally, what do I need to do to grow? So again, it's like, how do I support my team? How do I support my clients? How do I grow myself? Those are, if you're asking those three questions, I think you are in a very good place as a leader. You're not beating yourself up, but you are also laying up the track for how things can constantly improve.
Okay, so for the listener who might be feeling a little overwhelmed or stuck, what is one small shift that they can make this week that would really move them closer to tiny baby step action?
As a leader, actually, the first thing I would have people do is look at where you have been a really good leader in your life so far. I would reflect on your progress, right? Like, could we all be better in a million ways? Yeah, sure. But that's not a strong starting point. The starting point is, where have you led yourself? I got a fasting from this super cool guy who I didn't even know saw me, but he said, wow, like he saw me in the gym one morning. He kind of observed me over a couple of days at a conference we were about that. And he saw me in the gym. He saw me on stage. He saw me at the whatever conversation at his table. And he goes, and then he said, you know what? I saw you in the gym. What a great example of self-leadership. And I was like, thought of it that way, right? It was so interesting. But I'm like, thanks, dude. You're right. It was really interesting. And he wrote this long letter with a butterfly card. I'm like, this guy's 6'8". Anyway, he's lovely. Justin, thank you. So it's just pay attention to what you're doing that's already working and then do more of that. And then if there's some gaps there, good. Fill it with, and if you haven't done all the profiles, do the profiles and you'll be so validated in stuff that you know. And also it will tell you what to do more of and what not to do. So I would think reflect on your progress and do the things to help you know yourself. In our world, that's profiles plus other things. I think that's what I would do first. Reflect on your progress, not your failure, not where you think you should be, but you're already doing some great stuff. And it's critical that you know that because that's going to give you the confidence to go and do some things that require a little more courage.
I love that. Thank you so much for that reminder. Okay, Shannon, before we wrap up, if listeners want to learn more about you, learn more about Strategic Coach, where do you think they should turn? What's the resource that you would direct them to?
Let me start with Strategic Coach. So strategiccoach.com, super simple. We've got phenomenal workshops, great coaches. You know all the things. We've got a cool conference we do every couple of years called CoachCon. It's coming up this summer. And we're excited about that. So come and explore Coach. And we have a cajillion books and resources. I've got a whole list back here. Your bookshelf is probably crowded with those too. So lots of ways to learn our concepts and tools. But I have to say, if you're someone who's a growth-oriented entrepreneur who's looking for a community, Coach is epically fabulous. And so that's one thing. And then I have my own website too on team stuff called yourteamsuccess.com. And that's where there's a fun exercise, really quick, called the communication builder. Best way to give and receive information, what you need when you're stressed, all the obvious stuff, but we never talk about. So it's not so obvious. My entrepreneurial attitude exercise, which is what this book is based on, references to my books, my podcast, which is called the Team Success Podcast. So that would be great. And of course, LinkedIn is also helpful, Shannon Waller, but probably, strategiccoach.com and yourteamsuccess.com has all sorts of goodies there.
Amazing. And we will drop those links in the show notes for the listen. Thank you so much for being here today. This has been phenomenal. I've learned so much and I cannot wait to implement everything about today. Appreciate you so much, Shannon.
Thank you, Anne. This is a joy talking to someone who has the same passion for people and growth and self-awareness, know thyself. That is a joy for me. It just, to my mind, means we can have a really fun, elevated conversation that will be relevant to our audiences. So I just really appreciate your time and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thanks for tuning in to Empowered Living. I hope today's conversation sparked some inspiration and gave you tools to live more intentionally in your family, work, and life. If you enjoyed our episode today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story or actionable takeaway. And if you know someone who would love this episode, share it with them. Because living an intentional life is better when we do it together. Until next time, remember, the life you want doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. Let's keep creating it one step at a time.